right, Shutdown. You have the money to pay the troops on October 15th? Okay. How is
I actually have a man who is a very wealthy person, you'll know that when I tell you this, who called a donor, a great gentleman, and he said, if there's any money necessary, shortfall, for the paying of the troops, then I will pay it, meaning he will pay it. How about that? I said, look, we're not going to need it. We're going to take care of our troops. But this was a position that's being forced upon us by Democrats. And all they have to do is just...
Front. On the other side, Democrats can't even agree amongst themselves. You got different subgroups among them. You've got a few reasonable Democrats who know shutdowns hurt the people, and they've already voted for our bill. They want to keep the government open. Then you've got others desperate to prop up the failures of Obamacare with no reforms whatsoever to make the program more affordable. That's what we're fighting for. And you've got AOC calling for her own negotiations on live TV, and you've got Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries still unable to articulate what it is they need to reopen the government. It illustrates the point once again. This was never about a solution. It was about creating an issue. Now that Democrats have had their protest and publicity stunts, I just pray that they come to their senses and end this shutdown and reopen the government this week. Republicans are waiting. The American people are waiting, and we are ready to act.
Boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the Democrat-led shutdown. We're on day 20 or so of the shutdown that purely at this point is about Trump derangement, okay? It's about Democrats trying to save their careers, virtue signaling to the far left, right? That they will do anything in order to stop Trump, including potentially taking food out of people's mouths, right? Having people go hungry because apparently if the government shutdown is not resolved here before next month, some people's food stamp benefits are going to be cut off, right? And that is causing major panic.
Shit's gonna hit the fan in about 2 weeks when food stamps run out of money. That's right. SNAP benefits are going to go broke in about 2 weeks from now if this government shutdown continues. And that means mothers, fathers, children, people will be going without food. And there will be imagery coming out showing kids going hungry in the United States of America. It's unbelievable that we are at this point now. But the Department of Agriculture has said that this is likely to happen. They're exploring options. They're looking to see if they can collect money from customs duties that have come in. That's a possibility to maybe extend it a little longer. There are roughly 42 million Americans currently receiving SNAP benefits that could lose them. But the bottom line is we got to get the government reopened and get these programs funded. And the Republicans need to come back to the table to do so. When we start seeing children in food bank lines and children going hungry, that's not going to be a good look for them because they are not at work. They're getting paid and not doing their job.
Okay, you have air traffic controllers not being paid. You have the Trump administration swooping in to save service members, allowing them to continue to still get paid. I mean, there are a lot of government workers who are not getting paid. There are a lot of individuals who are not able to feed their families and to provide for themselves because Democrats want to virtue signal to the far left. Okay, however, it seems as if Democrats may be in a position where they might fold, okay, because they just had a Trump derangement rally, the so-called No Kings rally that really was a boomer freak show, to be honest with you. And now that that's out of their system, the White House is saying that Democrats might be willing to put aside their ridiculous demands and to actually open up the government now that, again, their freak show is done.
It's day 20 of the government shutdown. Joining us now, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. It's good to see you, Kevin. Good morning.
Morning.
Give me the blueprint of how you think this ends. I don't think it's that difficult for you, maybe, to go out on a limb here. Do you think the president gets involved and gives the Democrats some type of assurance for these Obamacare subsidies, or do you think he takes a hard line? And you mentioned over the weekend that some extreme measures are possible about firing people, taking away things that are important to Democrats. What do you think really happened?
Right. Well, first of all, the president has been very active throughout this process, but it's also his position that this is a thing that the Senate needs to work out. A lot of our friends in the Senate have said that it was just bad optics for Democrats to open the government before the No Kings rally, and that now there's a shot that this week things will come together and very quickly the moderate Democrats will move forward and get us an open government, at which point we could negotiate whatever policies they want to negotiate with regular order. Now, I was very pleased to see that my friend Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire, a very sound-minded Democrat, came out and supported opening the government on Friday. So it means that there's sort of cracks in the Schumer armor. I think the Schumer shutdown is likely to end sometime this week. But I can tell you that if the story that we've been basically hearing from moderates that, look, we just can't do it in front of the No Kings rally, if that ends up not being true, then I think that the White House is going to have to look very closely, along with Russ Vought, at stronger measures that we could take to bring him to the table.
So there would be negotiations about what to do. We're running out of time before November 1st. There would be negotiations about what to do with the pandemic super subsidies for Obamacare.
Well, that again is an issue for the Senate. But the Democrats passed that law. It was in an emergency for COVID, and they ended it now because it was such an expensive law. And so it's the Democrats' policy, it's the Democrats' shutdown, and it's the Schumer shutdown. And really, the Senate needs to figure it out.
Yeah, stronger measures, right? That sounds about right? That sounds like that might be what we need, okay? And we're going to talk about some of the stronger measures that President Trump is starting to pull at in order to force Democrats to capitulate. But Democrats probably are going to end up folding because the reality is that they're losing, right? They want the American people to blame Trump for the shutdown, but they're not getting exactly what they wanted thus far in regards to how people perceive the shutdown and whether or not people are pointing the finger at Trump. Even CNN is admitting that, Trump is not really being hurt that much by this shutdown, and low-key, he's winning.
That's exactly right. Turns out shutdowns are different the second time around when it comes to Donald Trump. Take a look here. We speak about Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating. We're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
What about the question of blame?
Yeah, okay. What about the question of blame? Okay, you see Donald Trump's net approval rating was down 2018 to 2019. You talk about 2025 as net approval rating is up. It comes down to the blame game, a game I loved to play when I was younger. Blame Trump for the shutdown a great deal. In 2018/2019, 61%, more than 3 in 5 Americans, blame Trump a great deal for that particular shutdown. You come over to this side of the screen, look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world. 48% of Americans blame Trump a great deal for this particular shutdown. So it's more than 3 in 5 back in 2018/2019. It's less than half, a drop of 13 points. Again, it's no real wonder that Donald Trump at this point, looking at the shutdown, says, you know what, it's not actually harming me politically, in large part because he's getting less of the blame.
And he's doing things differently during this shutdown.
Yes, exactly right. We talk about Donald Trump and you say, okay, he wants to be a consequential, influential president. Well, if the legislative process is basically freezed up, on Capitol Hill, you may say, well, then he can't actually get legislation through. But that's not how Trump is governing in this term. We've spoken about this over and over and over again. He's using his pen. He's using executive orders. Trump executive orders at this point of presidency. In 2017, it was just 50. Look at this. Already 210 executive orders signed by Donald Trump during this presidency. That is the most in a year. You have to go all the way back since Franklin Delano Roosevelt to find a president who signed more executive orders in a year than Donald Trump has already signed this time around. And remember, John Berman, we still have 2 months to go in this year, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if he signs even more.
Yeah, it seems to be saying, Congress, you don't want to do something?
I'll do it.
I'll do it. Harriet, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's what we voted for, right? We voted for the president to still try to get things done, even in the face of Democrat Party obstruction, right? And what you saw there from CNN is that they're admitting that, yeah, Trump is winning. His approval rating is not going down, right? In fact, it's going up. And on top of that, most of the American people are not blaming him, right, for the shutdown. So, again, this is a win for President Trump as of right now. And that's why I believe that Democrats are probably going to end up folding sooner rather than later, because they're going to feel the pressure, right? I mean, I know initially I said that I thought that they would fold a lot sooner, but, hey, I underestimated how much the left had the Democrat Party by the cojones, right? So apparently they're real desperate, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, to keep their jobs. So this is why they're holding out, but they can't hold out for too much longer because, again, Trump is starting to bring down a hammer on these Democrat-run states due to Democrats refusing to open back up the government. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Government shutdown is now the third longest in history. President Trump is turning to blue states to slash federal spending. The president's team announcing plans to freeze over $11 billion in projects for the Army Corps of Engineers in states largely run by Democratic governors. News Nation's Marcus Espinoza has more from New York City this morning. Hey there, Marcus. The White House is putting the blame squarely on Democrats for this funding freeze. What's the latest?
Hey, Anna, good morning. Yeah, and excuse the construction noise, literally feet from me. Here it is, New York City, after all. But this domino effect from the government shutdown continues to play out across the country, this time in the form of denying that money for these projects in several blue states. Russell Vought put out a tweet on X actually announcing this, and we'll see how much credibility this is going to have going forward here, saying, quote, the Democrat shutdown has drained the Army Corps of Engineers' ability to manage billions of dollars in projects. The Corps will immediately be pausing more than $11 billion in lower priority projects and considering them for cancellation. So New York alone, Anna, faces some $7 billion of projects being on that chopping block here. And it's something that it's not happening just in this particular state here, but in other states as well. Massachusetts also facing cuts as well because of this announcement here and effects of that government shutdown. And that includes $600 million in bridge projects as well for them. So it's reaching across multiple states and multiple cities that rely on this money here. The White House says this is temporary, but they haven't ruled out a formal cancellation on any of these projects either, Anna.
Gosh, and that noise behind you, it's 7 o'clock in Manhattan, and you can hear a jackhammer or whatever that is, city that never sleeps. Marcus, the White House is linking this to the shutdown, but some say there's more politics at play here.
Yeah, and I think that politics are at play right now at the heart of everything that is going on here. They're saying this is basically a pressure tactic at this point right now. Democrats are saying this, trying to get things the way Republicans want to get them done, saying the White House is using infrastructure dollars to target blue states during a funding stalemate. Legal experts note that while Congress controls appropriations, the executive branch can basically delay this. So the timing comes just one day after a federal judge blocked planned government employee layoffs, Anna. So we're getting the vibe here that this is a bit of a tit for tat, and that because of one thing gets shut down, that perhaps the administration tries to find another route to either make their point or to try to get this shutdown to end. But you can just see that it's going back and forth right now between both parties.
Yeah, and I said this before and I'll say it again. I will continue to reiterate here that if you believe Republicans are responsible for the government being shut down, you're not smart, okay? You are not a very smart person at all. Democrats at this point, I don't know who they think they're fooling, right? Maybe they are fooling half of the country, right? But it's like the Republicans have a continuing resolution, right, on the table, okay, in order to keep the government open. Democrats have decided they're not going to vote for it and that they would rather virtue signal their Trump derangement instead. Again, the longer that this goes on, the more that people are going to really start to be hurt. But Democrats have said that we need to feel pain, right? That pain has to be felt before they think about folding, right? Before they think about coming to the table and opening back up the government and continuing the negotiations on Obamacare, which to me is really shameful because Democrats are basically saying that we are willing to hurt the American people, right? We're willing to take food out of your mouth, okay, in order to fight Trump, right? You got to starve for Trump. Starve for Trump. Okay, don't get paid for Trump, right? Because we got to stand up to the dictator. We got to stand up to the authoritarian. When the reality is, again, this is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries trying to save themselves, right? Trying to save their political careers because they know that the far left lunatics are trying to primary them. They're trying to get them out of leadership. And this is their last grasp, right? That is what's happening. The sad part for Democrats is that regardless of how this ends up, right? Even if Trump capitulates to their demands, which I doubt the Republicans will, but even if they did, that still is not going to save Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, right? The far left has decided that they got to go regardless of what happens here. And that's what makes this even sillier, right? The fact that the people who are causing the shutdown, they can't achieve the goal that they're trying to achieve. It's impossible, right? But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.